Welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really two programs in one. This is a series that appeals to your creative side. Food that is sumptuous stuff. How could that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure. But it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you. Thanks so much for spending some more time with me. I tell you what I'm going to do today. I'm going to make a cake, and I have a kind of love-hate relationship with cakes, much the same as Marie Antoinette probably had, but she lost hers as a result of it. But, you know, really, if you've got a carrot cake, now, a carrot cake that I go and get in a bakery is tall and moist and gooey on the top. You know, and you can't really get at it. You know, you've got to have a fork to be able to get it. Big, large, moist, fatty. As a matter of fact, we have actually taken the calorie value of it and the fat content very carefully, this one, and analyzed this one. This came as a result of Sally. Sally Fabro is the lady who actually filled in one of these individual food preference lists that we send out. By the way, you know, if you're a little baffled by that, in the book, there is a plain individual food preference list, a large one for you to fill in so that you could photocopy it and each member of your family could fill it in. And then what you do is you simply reduce the risky parts of the recipe and then bung in everything that you can see that your family likes to compensate for the salt, fat, and sugar that goes out of it. Not all out of it, but just part of it. All right, shall I show you just what Sally came up with here? Oh, let me tell you about Sally first of all. I'm sorry. Sally, okay. Now, look, Sally's married, and she's in her 40s. She's got a Hungarian background on one side and German, Irish on the other. And she's a businesswoman, and her goals are to remain under 30% of calories from fat. And I think the reason for that largely is, as far as I can gather, her husband, when he was 35, had some kind of heart event, and that really got their attention, kind of whack round the back of the head and say, come on, you guys, and you really did that. And by the way, you tell me that you really like this cake. You think it's a good alternative. Now, you sent me the rich one. All right. And with this, you sent me your list, so I could have a look at the recipe and then look at this as well. French, USA Northeastern food, and Italian. That's the kind of food you like. You like baking. You enjoy apple pie and yellow cake with a buttercream. I thought, yes, I see that. Then here, allspice and cinnamon were big deals with you. At least you ticked them off that you enjoyed them. You like all the main ingredients except ducks, geese, and tofu. I can understand the last, but not the other two. Apricots, nice round fullness. Potatoes is big on your list. You said you could eat those 11 times in one meal. That's amazing. Strained yogurt, egg substitutes, de-alkalized wine. Well, I thought, looking at that, we can really put something together for you. All right? Come through and I'll show you how it's done. As you know, what we tried to do is to springboard, to jump up and down upon a technique of some kind, and then try and apply it to some of the ingredients that you love. And so this is what we're going to do with Sally's. The basic concept here is to take the fat and sugar content and just dial it down, just move it across a little bit and bring into place there something which is going to give lightness and a little bit of tenderness, but without those two essential ingredients for cakes. It's kind of tricky. So let me show it to you this way. This is a slice of bread, and of course you know that this has high gluten flour because it's made into bread, and though that gluten traps, it's like a sort of an elastic balloon, you know, that you blow into. But what blows into it is carbon dioxide gas, and the gas is created by yeast. So that makes all these little tiny holes. Well, look at this piece here. Now, this is a cake this is kind of a smiley cake. You notice how it smiles like this? It fell in on itself. But this is a kind of lemony cake, and you see this large gas hole? Those are the kind of coarse gas holes that are created when you use a baking soda to be able to produce lightness. Baking soda reacts upon acid things like this lemon here, or this, which is yogurt, or buttermilk is another acid form. And actually, let's just clean that off a minute. Also, strangely, chocolate or cocoa, which hasn't been Dutched. Now, when you Dutch cocoa, it turns into an alkaline, and then, of course, it won't work because it should be acid. All right. Now, so that's what happens. The soda reacts with moist stuff and just simply expands and makes this little gas. Now, here, this is a very fine, light texture, much, much lighter and finer than the soda. This is baking powder. And this typically happens when you put the baking powder in. It doesn't react to acidity. It reacts to heat. So it sort of waits there for it to be in the oven and to go. So what we do is this. It's really cute. We simply take a little bit of the baking soda and we make sure that there's acidity in our cake. And we're going to put lemon juice in for that specific purpose. So that's going to start it off and little bubbles start going. Then we're going to put the baking powder in there for the purpose of reacting to the heat when it gets into the oven. And that gives me texture, moisture, and a nice spring back at the same time. Really gives me a good looking cake. Okay? Now, that's the technique. Now let's see how we can apply that to be able to shift the fat over and the sugar over just a little bit and make a delicious cake at the same time. Ready? Okay? Let's see what's on the menu.
Today on Graham Kerr's Kitchen, carrot cake with walnut cheese filling. A carrot, pineapple, and raisin sandwich with a fresh cheese and walnut filling.
Okay, Sally, now, of course, the whole idea is because I got your food preference list, I was able to see what I could hone into that you actually liked. That's how I was able to fix this, I think. Okay, let's see. All right, here are the ingredients that I pulled out of. It wasn't Sally's recipe, you understand. It's a recipe that Sally had that she sent to me to fix. Okay, because I know you wouldn't eat that, Sally. All right, so here goes. Now, this is what we actually extracted from the dish. We took out 3 egg yolks because we don't use any egg yolks. We took out 8 ounces of cream cheese because we don't use any cream cheese. We took out 1/4 of a cup of butter. 4 ounces of butter. That's 1/2 a cup. And we took out 1/2 cup of brown sugar. And we've left some sugar in, but we took out that amount. And we took out 1/2 cup of oil. And if that wasn't enough, I feel like one of those people who's selling you knives on television. And furthermore, we have just a couple of tablespoons under a whole pound of confectioner's sugar. All right? So all of those things were put on one side because they came out. And I'm sure that you can probably be saying to yourself at the moment, well, what's left? You know, where is it? I'll show you what's left. All right. First of all, what's in this pan here is just 1/4 of a cup of walnuts. And they've just been chopped up. And I'm allowing them to sort of warm up there because Sally said, quite rightly, we'd put walnuts in without actually toasting. She said, wouldn't it be better if it was toasted? And you're absolutely right, darling. So, okay, that's doing well. Now, the carrot. Carrots are not just all that they seem cracked up to be. I don't know whether you've been into one of the big stores where they've got very expensive clothing there. And every now and again you say this sort of following you, you know, and somebody's sitting looking at screens to see whether you're going to nick something. I always feel that in a supermarket or something like that. But I always take a little pocket knife and I trim pieces off vegetables and eat them before I'm going to buy it. No, not always, but I mean quite often. And I want to find that it's a good carrot. It's a complete waste of time if you're going to grate carrots and you've got this wooden, horrible thing that's, you know, that sort of, it was growing in Custer's Last Stand. You know, you can just imagine the kind of thing it is, wooden, fibrous, and without sweetness. Now, what we do with this one, this is a good way of doing the fingernails too, so right the way down. By the way, I wanted to show you this because this is a way of being able to measure the amount of grated carrot that you're going through at the same time. I want 2 cups of grated carrots there, and it just is a simple way, and you just pull that at the bottom and it drops down. I think it's fascinating. It still takes time to grate, but there we are. That's just one way of doing it. There are some marvelous new things nowadays, which are little mandolin things which you can scrape like that, and they'll do a nice job. The big thing is that it's nice and fine and thin, not great big chunks. It's hard to be able to do with a knife. You've got to be able to grate it. Okay, now for the flour. Have a look at that. This gives you some idea of the quantity comparison. This is 1.5 cups of flour, and that's cake flour. That's the finest, softest flour that you can get. And this one here is called whole wheat pastry flour. That's also made with a soft wheat. But you've got the whole wheat berry ground up in that. So there's lots of nutrition in that. And this is about as far as you can go, I think, with a cake. So if you take 1.5 cups there, and then you put their 1/2 cup on top, that will make it, you combine the two together, you get a certain amount of nutrition plus the softness of the rest of it. So that will give you a nice tender mix. Now, into here, we've got 2 teaspoonfuls of cinnamon, of ground cinnamon. Now, sometimes I could whiz that up in one of my little coffee mill and sort of get it absolutely fresh. But, you know, honestly, I think it's a bit of a fetish that, you know, for a dish like this one, there's so much of it, it's just fine. And this is allspice, ground allspice. So we're putting those 2 favorite things together. And it looks like a lot of spicing, but it actually works extremely well. All right? Here's some other dry ingredients. And you put all the dry ingredients together and all the wet ingredients on one side. 1/2 teaspoonful of salt. Just enough to be able to set the taste buds up on edge and say, hey, here it comes. And salt does that. It's useful. Not too much, but just enough. Now, I'm putting in, here are the classic ingredients. 1 teaspoonful of baking soda. Now, the soda is going to work on, you know, the acidity. Remember that one? And this one, then, is the baking powder. All right? And this is going to work when it gets into the oven and starts to get hot. All right? So equal quantities, 2 teaspoonfuls to 2 cups. All right? A teaspoonful to a cup kind of measure. All right? Now, that's all the dry ingredients. So all that you would do with that is just to get a little sieve, a little whisk, and just shake it all up together. Make sure that it is well and truly, my goodness, round one, completely and absolutely mixed. Very well indeed. And just keep on doing it. Do about 20 good whips around and you'll be fine. Now here, we're in the midst of looking at something quite unusual at the moment. I'm going to put together the wet stuff in a beater for this reason. Now, that's the equivalent of 4 ounces of an egg substitute. And 1/4 cup of oil. I'm using olive oil. And that's not the pungent olive oil, but this is the olive oil which has had the aroma removed from it, but not the quality. And then a couple of teaspoonfuls of vanilla. All right, that's good, standard, well-loved flavor. And what I'm doing is I want to try and get some froth into, there we go. I want to try and get some froth into this whole caper. And for the reason is because the more bubbles you can get at the beginning, by far the better that it works. And what happens is the baking soda and the baking powder, producing the little bit of gas that they do, that will actually inhabit the froth that you have in the batter. It doesn't make the froth, you have to actually make the froth yourself. And so this is what we're doing now, just whizzing that around to make froth. You might as well, just because we're doing it at the moment, get the lemon juice, and I have this nifty little lemon squeezer thing, which does this, and I want 2 tablespoons full of lemon juice. Why? Do you remember? Baking soda? I feel like a teacher. Why now do I put the lemon juice in there? Oh, the reason is to react on the baking soda. All right, well, we'll let that just go and develop some froth. We'll just leave that for just 2 or 3 minutes, just for a froth to develop on the top of it. And I'll show you what's been going on here. I got an 8-ounce can of crushed pineapple. That's the stuff that they can't make into cubes for you and I. And but I suppose that seems fair, you know, the trim. And just push that down through a sieve. And I got about 3.5 ounces of liquid out of the bottom, and put that down with a 1/2 cup of raisins, right? And then simmer those for a little while, and about 15 minutes. And let me just strain those off. And you can strain away then. It seems a waste to pour it down the drain, but those raisins that I have here, look, just like this, they've all plumped up, and they've plumped up with a pineapple flavor. I mean, really odd. So that's the 1/2 cup, and they're nicely plumped and ready to go. And then you can just put in the pineapple that was there before. You've got about 5.5 ounces of pineapple to the 1/2 cup of raisins. So that's all the wet stuff, all good stuff. Now, just before you're ready to do the whole thing, you would then lift this up. Oh, good, good. Lots, millions of little bubbles. Let me see. Do you see all the bubbles all over the surface there? Okay, lots and lots of bubbles. Good. All right, now those bubbles are going to go down. That becomes all of the wet stuff there. And then the big trick, it's no trick at all actually, you just simply take the dry ingredients and mix them with the wet ingredients. And the moment that they're mixed together, and this has just been done before you and I got together, this is already, the bubbles just on the surface there, and the soda is already reacting and releasing the carbon dioxide into those bubbles. You then take a slightly greased and floured dish so that it's got something to grip onto on its way up, and then just take the mix and pour it off the top, and for the benefit of the lady who wrote to me once upon a time, for whom I shall be indebted forever, said, "Do please, Graham, clean your bowls. It's frightful waste." So, how's that, darling? See, I can just see you. All right, just shake it across into the corners. This is quite a large pan, and Sally suggested a smaller pan so that it could be thicker. But hey, we were stuck with this, darling, at the moment. So we put that in there and put that at 350 degrees Fahrenheit and cook it for 40 minutes. Now, we really tried this at little less than 40 minutes and found out that it was too soggy by far. And so 40 minutes looks as if it's it. Now, take a toothpick and drive it in to the middle and withdraw it, and it should come out clean. All right, it was a little bit at the top there, but that was all right, clean. If it comes out clean, it's cooked. Now, leave it for about 5 minutes or so to be able to shrink back from the pan, 5, 10, 15, whatever, until it shrinks back. Put a little rack on the top, and then turn it upside down, and there it is. Now, you see all the little holes in the bottom? That's doing nicely. Now, let that steam off, okay, until it has dried out. And, of course, this is turned out the other way again, but this is what it looks like on that side. But I just wanted to have it turned that way up for a good reason. Now let's have a look and see the frosting thing, because there's an awful lot of material which is changed in the frosting. Here is strained yogurt, all right? And the strained yogurt is put into a bowl with 3 tablespoons full of brown sugar and a teaspoonful of, there we go, a teaspoonful of vanilla, all right? So it just needs a couple of those. And then 1 cupful of the yogurt. Now, this is the strained yogurt, which has been allowed to actually sit on a sieve overnight, and it's really thick and creamy. And it really does have the same kind of significance as the cream cheese has. In fact, it can be called fresh cheese. And you see, all I did was just mix those two together and then pop into that the toasted walnuts and stir that around as well. And literally, you've got it made. All right? That's pretty easy. Oh, good sync. And then just dab this on the top. put it in the middle for a change, all right? There's lots of it. You can keep on sort of sloshing it on if you like, and it has no fat in it, so there you are. Then you take this and you pop that on the top, all right? And then a plate, you can just shoot it, lift it up on the plate and just serve it. You say, okay, friends, pals, let's go. And a portion of this, and by the way, I would cut this with a bread knife, all right? So a portion of this is the portion that we have gone to and thought that would be a good idea. Just that. Now, we then dust that with a little icing sugar all over the top. Doesn't that look good? Icing sugar over the top of this one, and you're ready to sample it. Okay? Come through. Let's eat cake. Well, now, the classic, we went out and we thought what we would do would be to buy what you would buy. We went to a bakery, and you see we didn't want to spoil the appearance of it by cutting it down to the exact weight, but weight for weight, the comparison is interesting. Because when you cut it down to weight, that's 700 calories. And this little one that we fiddled with today has come down to 260. Fat was 36, and this comes down to just 6. In saturated fat, it was 12, and that's where it really counts a lot nowadays, down to only 1. So the calories which we actually got out of all the calories from fat, about 46% of those calories were 324, and we had that dropped to 22% or 54 calories from fat. Whoopee. Cholesterol was 95, and that comes down to 1. I know it sounds odd. Sodium was 417, 283, and carbohydrate 93 to 46. So, gives you some idea about how that happens, doesn't it? And so this is hard to actually dunk. It's not a dunking cake, but it is light, it is tender, it is moist, it is spicy. And what's really interesting is by putting, instead of having all the icing on the top, which is, you know, the sweetened cheese, the yogurt. Oh, my goodness. Never talk with your mouth full, my mother used to say. She said, that's all right, darling. How do I earn a living? So this, the nuts are just nice, and it is easy to be able to eat. It looks good. So remember, Springboard is just taking a principle and the foods you love and giving it to the people you love. Springboarding. Okay. Well, you know, what we normally do here is to rush over here and get a frozen something out and then resuscitate it. In this case, what I'd like to suggest to you is a completely different treatment of the same recipe. Just make it up in the batter, and just before you would put it into the oven, put it into a small basin like this one. It's got a bit of a lip on it. You want the lip of the, on the basin in order to be able to put a little piece of wax paper around it, and then put a loop of string, and then tie that on. And you can't really tie it on in a nifty way unless you've got a lip on it. You see, the lip has to be there for this purpose. And that's why you know that you've got one of the good old-fashioned basins that you can do this with, because it's got enough of a lip. Okay, just make a good tight knot, a double knot. You can tuck that other bit underneath, because this becomes the carrying handle for it. If you've got something which is round and like a plate or something like this, you can just drop that down into the bottom. Put enough water so that there's about 4 inches of water running almost halfway up the side of the basin. Put the lid on the top and cook that for 1.5 hours. Now, you know, hot, cold day, it's just wonderful. And then when it comes out, strip all the top off like this, and then turn it upside down like that with a plate on the top, and lift it off, and you will have a steamed pudding, truly. And what you do with the steamed pudding is you just simply cut that in the same way that I cut the other pieces. And it's exactly the same concept, except it has this lovely, moist, wonderful, hot, spicy combination, which is just great. Now, all you need to have with that, which makes it really terrific, make exactly the same mix, you know, with the strained yogurt and the walnuts and everything else. And then take half a dozen carrots and just make a cup of steamed carrots. Now, a friend of mine suggested, well, you could use Gerber baby food, but it's been such a long time since I've used Gerber baby food that I just simply took straightforward carrots like so. And then just put a dab of that. Serve it steaming hot with this carrot sauce on the side. I tell you, if you've actually got, you know, one of those, what happened to it? Oh, here it is. Just a little confectioner's sugar over the top. Just makes it look a bit more like Christmas, doesn't it? Right? And if you've got the kind of family where you like when the rain's coming down and it's awfully cold and miserable, you sit around the family table and just love on each other. Oh, this is going to be a fantastic dessert for you. Okay? God bless. Okay, Sally, there it is. Hope you love it. And I know that you like the taste of it, and lots of wonderful occasions with your friends when they drop in for a cup of tea and a piece of cake. God bless.